recording in the meantime. Hi, Setu. Nice to see you. Yeah, I'm all good. I'm looking forward to the session today. All right. So it's gone 2 minutes after 9, and let's start with our session today. Hello, Lesego. Welcome to the session. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the exam essay, and just to give you an overview of what we'll be doing. Oh, sorry. We're going to look at how to approach the exam essay. We're going to focus on using the writing process, and you might want to just jot down these page numbers from your study guide, and for those of you who have the prescribed textbook, chapters 1 to 5 in your prescribed textbook. Those 5 chapters deal with the writing process. Then in your study guide on pages 26 to 32, you will find an explanation of the writing process. So we are going to be using the writing process today as an approach to the exam essay. Just some housekeeping as usual. Log in via Teams, keep your microphone muted, your camera off. If you want to ask a question, raise your hand. I've already asked you to add your student number to the register using the link in the meeting chat. Please feel free. This is an interactive session. You're going to be doing an exercise later, so use the meeting chat freely to communicate with me and to interact with the other students here this morning. If you're experiencing any issues, or you're wanting to access the recordings of these sessions, you can email ctntut@unisa.ac.za. I know that there may possibly be students here from other areas in the country, so you may have a problem accessing the recordings, but we are working with Dr. Sheng Ge, the primary lecturer for this module, and she is looking at posting the link to the recording on my UNISA in the discussion forum. But if you're wanting to get it before then, you can just email CT and Tut, and they will explain to you how to go about accessing the recording. So all of the sessions are recorded, and you will find that the recordings, I create notes using the same slides that you're seeing here today, and then sometimes I upload some additional information on this same portal that you can access. But bear in mind that you also have online resources on my UNISA under additional resources. There's a wealth of information there on various aspects of this module. At the end of the session, please, we will once again post the link for an evaluation of your time here this morning. So, as an introduction to essay writing at university. The reasons we write at university is so that we can, we are engaged in discussing and exploring ideas and topics, arguing a case, proving that you can think about and apply what apply what you have learned. So those of you registered, whichever modules you registered for, or whichever college you registered in, you may find that you're required to write essays in those other modules, and not just for this module, ENG1503. And essentially what you're doing is you're showing how your mind works, you're showing how much you know, and what you think and feel about particular topics. Now, I don't want you to get too bogged down with how much you know, because at this stage you have enrolled at university. What is the objective of the university? Objective of the university is it deals with knowledge. It deals with the creation of knowledge. It deals with the understanding of things, the exploration of knowledge that exists, knowledge that is still to come. It's talking about what others know about stuff, all of that kind of thing. And so this is where you find yourself. So essentially what you are doing in your essay is you are having a conversation in writing. This conversation is with the marker. This conversation is with the subject matter experts. And as you progress at university, in your academic journey, you're going to find that you will rely more and more on your essay writing in order to have this conversation with the subject matter experts. Now, for the purposes of this module, you are having to have a conversation with a person who's going to mark your work. You're going to have to show how you think, and you have to do that in very particular ways. So this conversation, we don't use, in conversation, we can speak in whichever way we like, and we adjust the way that we converse with different people. So, for example, if you think about how the way in which you talk with your parents is maybe a little bit different to the way in which you speak to your siblings, or if you think about the situation, if you're at work, you converse a little bit differently. So, in the same way, when we're writing at university, you need to adapt your writing style. So this is the way we express ourselves in writing, and you'll find guidelines in your study guide. Look at study unit 5, where we talk about formal vocabulary, using the passive voice, using language cautiously, being objective when we state our views, not using contracted forms, making statements as opposed to asking questions. And you'll find more on all of these aspects, not only in your study guide, but also in your prescribed textbook on these pages 70 to 96. So our objectives for today is through the writing process. By the end of the tutorial, you will be able to analyze an essay topic. You'll be able to generate ideas in response to an essay topic. You'll be able to organize ideas according to the academic essay structure. Remember, we're having a conversation with academics in the field, people who are subject matter experts. And the way in which we have this discussion and present our views on an issue with people in the field. When I talk about field, I'm talking about the discipline or the module or the college that you are registered in. This conversation must be structured in a particular way. So we're going to look at how do I structure my essay in order to comply and meet the requirements of the academy. And then lastly, be able to use academic vocabulary to indicate my essay structure. So for the purposes of today, you're going to need pen and paper because it's an interactive session where I will show you past papers and you are going to get stuck into interacting with that essay question. Do we have any questions or comments at this stage? Setu, you're asking for the register. If you scroll up in the chat, you'll find the register. You'll find the register link. Okay. All right, we requested the KZN Durban to join the class. All right, so I see there are quite a few people here, so welcome to everyone. And if you have any questions, I check the chat regularly, so please feel free to post your question or your comment there. So let's get back to what we're focusing on today. So the first part of your, one of the steps in the writing process is the planning. And planning is really important. And in my experience of this module, I have found that students, and I think it's like something, you know, a hangover from high school. Our idea of planning is that, you know, I write out my essay roughly, like it's a rough and then when I'm rewriting it, I just rewrite what I wrote. However, if I'm wanting to have a conversation within this context of being at university, a university student, it requires a bit of change. It requires an adapting of my habits, the way in which I do things. So one of the things that I need to change is the way in which I plan when I have to write an essay. So one of the first things that on the screen at the moment, you're seeing 4 blocks. And the first step in the planning stage is to read your chosen question or the topic word for word. Then you have to analyze that question. Then you generate ideas using your analysis. Okay. And finally, you organize those ideas in a particular way. And in this planning stage, you are not necessarily writing full sentences. You are not writing in paragraphs. You're doing what some people would call a spider diagram. You're doing a mind map. You're making scribblings. All right. This is you planning. You're not writing an essay yet. You're nowhere near ready to write an essay. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on these areas or these steps in the writing process, and we are looking at the planning phase of the writing process. So the first thing that I've got to do is, now last week, for those of you who were in the session last week, we spent 1.5 hours talking about using reading strategies appropriately. And you also learned that reading and writing they are so interlinked and intertwined that it's really difficult. If I'm wanting to read effectively, if I'm wanting to read for understanding, I have to write while I am reading. So, and this is what we took away from last week's session. So in an essay, you're going to bring those same reading strategies to the essay question. You're going to use the appropriate reading strategy to make sense of what you're reading. And essentially, you're going to be reading interactively. Essay questions are not to be skimmed and scanned. If we're wanting to really make sense of that essay question, particularly in exam circumstances or conditions, we must draw on our reading strategies and choose an appropriate one. So I would say that you're reading interactively and critically, these are the 2 strategies that you are going to be drawing on when you are looking at that essay question. So I'm going to move on then to step 2. All right. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to read that question very carefully. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on this step, which I call the analysis step. The word analyze means to take something apart, to take its different parts. We separate it into its various parts. That's what the word analyze means. So you're going to now spend time. I'm going to pull up a past question paper, and you are going to apply these steps, these 4 steps that are crucial to analyzing an essay question. So what I'll do is I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint presentation. Then I'm going to share a past paper and I'm going to show you an essay question. I will then unpack the question and show you how this process works. And then I will leave you for a few moments to do your own analysis with the second question so that you get practice of how this process works and how, when you use this analysis, how your understanding of what is required in your essay that you're going to produce, what is required as far as what you're writing about, what the topic's about, how you can explore it, what you can include, what you're not going to include, all those kinds of things will present themselves through this analysis. So I'm going to stop sharing the presentation, and what I'll do is I'll pull up a question paper so that we can all see it. All right. Msikele, I'm really unsure. I don't know how many. I don't know how to answer your question. Unfortunately, the way in which students identify themselves is through student numbers. And I'm really not sure how you'll be able to see how many students from KZN have joined the class, short of people saying here which province they're from. I could we could ask the admin team if that's possible, if you are able to analyze the data in that way to see how many people's logged in. But unfortunately, right now, I'm not. What you could do is email Bronwyn Harding at the admin, at the tutorial coordinator for the region, and then she should be able to assist you. Okay. Do we have any comments or questions at this stage? Okay, so up on the screen, I have a past paper. Now, this past paper is available to you on my UNISA. All you have to do is go to additional resources and scroll down to find sample past papers or something like that, it says. Okay, so there are a couple of question papers up on my UNISA. And what I did is I just downloaded this one for our purposes today. So what we're going to do is, remember, we are now in the process of analyzing a question. And what I'm going to do is, the first question that I need to ask is, what is the main idea or the topic of the essay? And what kind of essay is this? So, what is the main idea or the topic of this essay? Now, last week we spoke about establishing the main idea of something, okay? So I need to read very, very carefully. So for the purposes of today, we're going to use section C, question A. So it says, based on the statement below, write an essay of no more than 500 words in length, which is 1.5 to 2 pages, in which you argue for or against the statement. Your argument must discuss the effects of social networking sites. And here is the statement. Social networking sites are detrimental to human relationships and activities. Now you'll see a little one here, okay? And that one you'll see repeated at the bottom here. So that word detrimental is explained to you by drawing your attention to this little one here at the bottom. Okay, this is called a footnote. So footnotes in documents, in academic documents, we use footnotes to refer to get the reader to refer to the foot, the bottom. The word foot in this instance means the bottom of the document, so the foot of the bottom, the foot of the page, the bottom of the page, and you'll see here that the word detrimental means harmful or causing damage. Okay, so in other words, here's a statement that you've been given. Social networking sites are harmful or cause damage to human relationships and human activities. So you're required to reflect on this statement. All right, what does this statement mean to you? Sorry, I'm trying to highlight the statement here. So let's go back to the question again. Remember, we are reading carefully to understand, and we are unpacking what this question means. So it says, write an essay of no more than 500 words in which you argue for or against the statement. Your argument must discuss the effects of social networking sites. Social networking sites are detrimental, which means harm or damage to human relationships and activities. Now, in terms of our process, okay, I'm going to copy and paste that first question in the chat just so that you can see it clearly. So the questions that we want to answer are, what is the main idea or topic of the essay? And secondly, what kind of essay is this? Now, you are aware by now, through having gone through your study guide and your tutorial letter and your prescribed textbook, and having gone through the experience of assignment 2, where you wrote an essay, that there are different types of essays, right? So my question to you is, and I'd like to see some responses in the chat for this, what is the main idea of the essay, and what kind of essay is this? So I'd like to see you answer those two questions, and I'll give you a moment or two. The screen is still being shared with you, and I want you to think about what is the topic and what kind of essay. Imran, I see. Is it Nurjan or is it Imran? I'm sorry. Some people's names come up, surname first, then first name, and other people the other way around. So I'm not sure. Are you Nurjan, or and you can just type in the chat what is your first name. Thanks for your response. I see that. Anyone else? Okay, thanks. So it's Nurjan. Thank you. Anybody else? What is the main idea of the essay? What is the main idea that you need to be thinking about? Okay, thanks, Setu. So remember that thank you, Carla. Remember that the answers to the questions I'm posing to you, they are in front of you. Okay? It is in front of you in words. You need to just read the statement, the this bit very carefully in order to answer the questions. Yeah? Thank you so much, Libalo. I see you. Thanks, Winnie. Anybody else? Okay, so as most of you have indicated, the main idea or the topic of this question is the effects of social networking sites. This is the main idea of the essay, the main idea, okay? In other words, that's what your essay must be about. The effects of social networking sites. And you are writing an argumentative essay. Okay. And how do we know this? Because it says argue for or against the statement. Which statement are they talking about? They're talking about this statement here. This statement. Okay. So the question is saying, here's a statement. Okay. We want you to think about the effects of social networking sites. Now, here's a question to you. Is this statement, does it refer to the effects of social networking sites? Yes or no? The answer is yes or no. Does that statement, this statement that's presented to you, does it relate to the effects of social networking sites? Yes or no? In the chat, please. Thank you. I see your response, Nurjan. Thanks, Carla. Okay. So, yep, great. Okay. So tell me then, is this, would you say the answer is positive or negative? Is this a positive or negative effect of social networking sites contained within this statement? In the chat, please. Positive or negative? Thanks, Setu. Yeah, great. Some people are really quick this morning. That's fantastic. I love it. Okay, excellent. Quick fingers. It's a negative. Yeah, okay. So now this statement is saying to you, social networking sites are negative. Okay, remember detrimental means harmful or causing damage. So it's saying to you, social networking sites have a negative effect on human relationships and activities. And so do you see why you are being told your argument must discuss the effects of social networking sites? Okay. So it's saying argue for or against. What does that suggest? Do you have a choice? Yes or no? In the chat. How do you know you have a choice? Which word tells you, and the word comes from this section here. In the chat, I want to know from you, which word tells you that you have a choice? There's one little word. Yep. Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. So the word is all. Okay. that word or. It says argue for or against. So these words are important because I'll make a different color. And you see what I'm doing? I am highlighting for you the words that are important. Oh, that's horrible. It's not going to work. All right. So it's saying your argument must discuss the effects of social networking sites. Okay. So we've now established what is the main idea of the topic. What kind of essay is this? So what are the key words relating to, and we might have gone here already. So here's another question for you. What are the key words relating to the main idea of the essay? So in the chat, can you please post your response to the question? What are the key words relating to the main idea of the essay? Social networking, okay, that's one. Term, yeah. Only social, is it social networking? It's more, is it Bokomoso? It's more social networking sites, okay? Sinclair saying social networking sites are detrimental. Lebalo saying relationships, activity, social networking. Carla saying social networking sites, detrimental, relationships, activities. So I would throw the word human in there, okay? Because, you know, you're wanting to specify what kinds of relationships, so human relationships. So it is social networking sites. Okay, so they're not saying social networking because that means something very different to social networking sites. So we've got social networking sites, we've got the word detrimental, and we've got the words human relationships and activities. So you'll see how all of these words are important to the step that we're busy with, the key words relating to the main idea of the essay. And are you starting to, is this process beginning to make sense to you? Just a yes or no, or a thumbs up in the, even though we're not done with it yet. Just a yes or no. Okay, great. All right. So let's go then to the next step, which is what words tell you what to do or how to approach the essay. Winnie, you have your hand up. You have a question? If you have a question, Winnie, please unmute your microphone and we can hear your question. Otherwise, if you're struggling, you can just post your question in the chat. If you didn't mean to raise your hand, then please lower your hand. Okay. The raising hand is used to indicate that you have a question. So rather use the chat to say yes or no. And I'm fine with your using an emoji. You don't have to type yes all the time. Sometimes it's just quicker to say give a thumbs up. Okay, so thanks, Winnie. All right, so The next step in this process is, remember, we are in the process of analyzing the question. We're taking it apart. We are separating it into its different bits. Okay? And I'm hoping that you're seeing this through this practical example. So the next step, the next part of this analysis is identifying the words that tell you what you've got to do. And these words are task words, they are instruction words. So can you in the chat point out to me which words tell you what you've got to do? Somebody's already answered the question. There are two words. Which words are those? Yes, well spotted. Anyone else? Okay, so the words are argue and discuss. So this is what I have to be doing. So this is the form. Remember, I spoke to you about having a conversation in writing, right? Where you are going to engage in writing using the academic writing style. You are going to put forward a discussion in the form of an argument on the effects of social networking sites. And you have been invited to take a stance, okay? You have been invited to say, you know what, I'm for this or I'm against it. In other words, I agree or I disagree. So this is where you are going to bring your voice, your thinking. Remember, I explained to you at the beginning of the presentation that when we write at university, we want to, in writing, present our views, present our thinking, how my mind works. What do I think of this? And the way in which we engage in this conversation with the person who is going to read our essay is to show this person what I think about this issue. So you've been presented with the issue, the statement that social networking sites are detrimental. There are negative effects to human relationships and activities. And essentially you're being asked, do you agree with this or not? So you must decide whether your essay is going to be about the negative effects if you say, I agree. However, if you are going to say, no, I disagree, then actually you're going to be still writing about the effects, but the positive effects you're going to present. Does that make sense, what I've just explained? Okay, all right, great. So here's the last question that's part of the analyzing a question. At this point, Nurjan, I don't know whether it's going to be research-based. In the past, before all exams were written online, when you wrote under normal conditions, where you would go to a venue, where it was venue-based, then it wouldn't be research-based. Okay? So in other words, you would then have to bring your own ideas to the essay. So you wouldn't go and look for research. And the way in which you provide evidence would be what we call anecdotal evidence. Okay? So remember when we, thanks Setu, when we state, when we're wanting to put forward our own ideas, academic writing requires us to say why we are saying something. So we can't just say, I agree or I disagree. Why are you saying that? Based on what? Now, in the essay assignment, you could go to the research and find information. You went and found what other people had to say about a particular issue, and you could use their you could use that as evidence, right? But depending on the question, and so this is why it's so important. It is so important that you read the question very, very carefully so that you make sense of what is being asked of you. So you will get very clear guidelines in the question paper as to whether it will be research based or not. Okay, so just to talk about anecdotal evidence. The word anecdote, so if we don't know what that word means, let's go to the good old internet, and I'll just share my screen here. Did I spell anecdotal? Why is it? Some days when things just don't look weird. I don't know why that word anecdotal doesn't look right for me. Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen with you at the moment. So let's go and find the word anecdotal. Okay. Anecdotal meaning, anecdotal evidence. Let's go to anecdotal evidence. So what is anecdotal evidence? It means that it is evidence based on individual experiences or observations. Okay? So if you're writing this essay, yeah. So, well, I wouldn't say casually say to. What it means, it's more personal. Okay, so you then, in this essay, for example, your evidence would be drawn from your personal experience and stories of the effects of social networking sites, and that would be accepted. So you could write about how it's affected you personally, and that would be acceptable if this were not research-based. Okay, all right. So in other words, you could, I'm wanting to just get to the meaning of the word. You could draw on personal experience, anecdotal meaning. Okay, so it's not necessarily true or reliable because no research has been conducted. So it's based on personal accounts rather than facts or research. So you are going to bring your own understanding, your own perspective, your own experiences of, let's just go back here, of social networking sites and how it affects human relationships and activities. So when you're talking about human relationships, in this instance, you talk about your personal relationships, your activities that you are engaged in. Okay, so I hope that, okay, no, you don't need to write the number of words at the end of your essay. It's really not necessary. It says very clearly one and a half to 2 pages. Okay, so maybe let me just show you an example of, I'm sharing my screen, so that's why I can easily switch between applications here. So I've got this document open, and it's a document that I keep open when I'm teaching because it has all the links that I need. Okay, so I just want to show you something here. for those of you typing your essay, you don't need to indicate your word count. You can keep tabs of your word count by, do you see at the bottom here in Microsoft Word? It'll keep track of the number of words that you're using, so that you've written or typed. So in this document, there's 116 words. Okay. The marker, I mean, don't waste your time trying, posting the number of words in your essay. As long as you keep to the 1.5 to 2 pages, roughly, okay? But when we're typing, I don't know if many of you would have found that when you typed your assignment, it was 1 page, about 1 page, okay? Coming, I'm quite happy to answer the questions as we go through. Okay, so we were looking at the required, to go back to the analysis step of this planning stage. What were the specific requirements and restrictions? It was count, yes, well spotted. All right, yes, thank you. Is it Yonele? Write an essay no more than 500 words. Okay, now these are important, very, very important requirements and restrictions, because it says no more than 500 words. So it means that you have to be disciplined in your response. Okay? No more than 500 words means not one word more than 500. So 501 words, you haven't followed the instructions. And this is one of the areas that are that is assessed in this module, is your ability to follow the instructions. Now, how do we know that you followed the instructions? When you demonstrate in the essay number of words that you've written that you understood what no more means. Okay? Sometimes you might have where it says at least. Okay? So, yes, what does this suggest? By implication, it suggests you can write fewer than 500 words. So you can write 485, 495. Okay? But ultimately, make sure that you have presented an effective argument, okay, in which you discuss the effects of social networking sites, using this statement as what we call a prompt. Yes, you will be penalized if you write more than 500 words. And why will you be penalized? Because you haven't followed the instructions. Okay. Nujan, you're saying if we write more than 100 words per paragraph. Now, when they mark in your essay, they're not going to pay attention to how many words you have in a paragraph. Okay? They're looking at all of your essay, the total number. But if you're looking at short questions, now we're jumping a bit to another section of the paper. And at this stage, we are uncertain. Not uncertain, we don't know what the format of the paper is going to be. 450 words might be a little light, okay? Or try to get as close to 500 as you possibly can, but do not exceed 500, okay? And of course, as long as you have presented an effective argument, then that would be fine. So, Nujan, I'm not quite sure what you mean by here, more than 100 words per paragraph. If you're referring to assignment 1, yes, you would have been penalized if you wrote more than 100 words. Okay, because it was very clear, the instruction, that you were to write 100 words only in your for assignment 1. Okay, so do you think you are now ready? I'm just looking at where the time has flown, and there's still so much more I want to talk about. Do you think you are now ready to tackle a question by yourself? Do you think you have the tools? Okay. Do you think you're now equipped to go and analyze a question? Yes or no? Thumbs up is okay. Cool. Thanks, Carla. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. You're going to find this is a very useful stage, a very useful thing to do. Students often just want to jump straight in. Okay. And what then happens is, great, I'm happy to see all these yeses and thumbs ups. What then happens is that you misinterpret the question completely. You misunderstand what is being asked of you. Okay, so it's a very useful process to follow when approaching an essay. And remember, we're talking about writing the essay in the exam. Now you've gotten to the point, I mustn't forget to share my screen. So now you've gotten to the point where you have now unpacked, you've analyzed this essay and you know what it's all about. So you've gotten to this third step of the planning stage is now where you're going to generate ideas. Okay? So I know why the question was asked, is it going to be research based or not? Because what happens is students are very quick to run to the internet to see what other people have to say because you have this idea that you don't know, okay, that you don't have knowledge, but actually you do. You bring your personal experience, you bring your personal understanding, you bring your general knowledge about being a human being, about being a citizen of South Africa, about being someone who lives in this country, in this world, on this planet, okay? In the universe, if you want to go that far. So you bring your general knowledge, your opinions, your thoughts, your ideas to the question. So the way in which you unpack this, all of this, okay, that you have inside of you is to use what we call the WH words, okay? So you use these words to ask yourself questions about the issue, the topic, the problem. So now I'm wanting you to see why we have to understand what is the topic of the question. So in this instance, in this example, if we run with this example, it's all about the effects of social networking sites. So, what do I know or think about this, about the effects of social networking sites? Have I experienced it, read about it, heard about it? So, have I experienced the negative or, depending on your stance, depending on the decision you've taken, I'm going to be for or against it, have I experienced negative or have I experienced positive effects of social networking sites? What social networking sites? Okay. Then why is this a problem? Why is this an issue? Or why is this of importance? These negative or positive effects of social networking sites. Why is it so important? Why is it a problem for me? Why isn't it a problem for me? Do you see how your answers will inform your essay, will inform, it provides you with content, it provides you with information that you can put down. Now, of course, here you need to be making notes. This is where you're writing, okay, as you are thinking through this issue. So when would this affect me? Us, people, situations. In which instances would the negative or positive effects of social networking sites affect or reveal itself? What examples exist? Okay, who would it affect? If it's not just me, who else could it affect? And why? And how do those effects show themselves? So do you see how just through asking questions, I'm coming up with all kinds of ideas. And at this stage, the ideas are all over the show. And that's fine, as long as you get the ideas out on a piece of paper. You can either write them down, scribble them as they come into your mind, or you can type them if that's how you do things, okay? But get them down on paper. Get them out of your head onto a piece of paper. And if it's a little bit of chaos on the page, that's fine, as long as you have the ideas out on paper. Another question you could ask is the H question, how? So how could this problem be solved? How could this problem be addressed? How could we deal with the positive or how could we deal with the negative effects of social networking sites? How would this situation issue play out in my world? In other words, how do I experience these negative effects? How do I experience the positive effects of social networking sites? So, does this make sense to you? The generating of ideas for an essay topic? Are you finding this useful? The 5 WH words? I mean, it's a lot to take in this morning. But you will find that when you practice it, when you put it in place, when you use it, I found in my experience, students want to know how, but then when it comes to the implementation, we go back to our bad habits of writing out paragraphs and then presenting that as the essay, and then sitting back when we look at the feedback, it's like, but I wrote an essay. How come, why didn't I get good marks for this? I spent so much time writing it out or typing it and all that kind of thing. But it's because we haven't planned. It's because we haven't, scribbled at all. I mean, we haven't scribbled. And unpacked the question and generated ideas for ourselves. So I'm pleased to see that you will find it useful. So now remember I said to you, you're going to have a little bit of chaos on your page, and that's fine if it's a little bit all over the show. So I'm pleased to see the positive feedback here. So use these 5 WH questions to help you generate ideas in response to that main idea of the question. Now we get to organizing our ideas. So your textbook and your study guide, and maybe you want to take a screenshot of this because I don't have time today in 1.5 hours to go through all of the different organizational structures of the different essay types. Your textbook contains fantastic information. Your textbook is a wonderful resource. It has 3 chapters, 1 chapter each on the different types of essays, okay? In other words, the way in which you can your information. So if it's a cause and effect essay, if it's a compare and contrast essay, if it's an argumentative essay, how to structure it, okay? Your study guide does the same thing, and I've put page numbers there. In your study guide, there's also a format that you can follow. It's in a table on page 25. Your textbook also has information on how to write an introduction, how to write a thesis statement. It also deals with topic sentences and supporting sentences of each body paragraph. Textbook chapter 3, study guide, page 87. And your textbook deals with conclusions, how to write a conclusion. So, and at this stage, you still haven't started writing. All you're doing is taking the mess that is, your rough planning of ideas everywhere. Is what you're doing is you are now organizing it. You are grouping it together into ideas that are similar, that in order to give some kind of structure to your essay. Let's just check the comments there quickly. Yes, Najan, this is great. I normally take a page and just jot down as many ideas that are related to the essay topic, then evaluate it. Yes, absolutely. Then I choose the most important ideas and use that for my essay and create a sort of format flow for based on my ideas. That's wonderful planning that you're doing already before you get to writing out the sentences. Okay. Now remember, you're writing an exam over a period of a few days. You are writing on your first paper, as Dr. Shengo posted an announcement in my UNISA yesterday. Your paper is going to become available to you at 7 o'clock on the 21st, which is a Wednesday. So Wednesday night, download the paper. Okay. Skim and read, use your reading strategies, check it out, see what's happening. Start thinking about what you want to write about. Maybe even spend time unpacking the essay question. Just do the analysis, okay? Even if that's all you do on that Wednesday night. Analyze all the other questions, also the short questions if you're given short questions. But use your reading strategies. And then when you're feeling a bit more fresh, then get started on more planning. So let's have a look then at the structure in a bit more detail. And I'm very conscious of time, so I'm going to go through these slides a bit quick. So I'm just gonna. Okay, so your overall essay structure is going to be something like that, where you're going to have an introduction which contains a thesis statement. Your thesis statement, now this term, thesis statement, freaks students out, but all it means is, what is the main idea of the essay? Do you understand now? If we backtrack to our analysis and our question, which was, what is the main idea of the essay? You've got to state the main idea of the essay in your introduction, which the main idea of the essay is part of the thesis statement. The thesis statement is your main idea of the essay and your opinion and your ideas of that main idea. So if you were to stay with the idea of this argumentative essay, you are going to say, in this essay, I will argue that, okay, I will argue for the negative effects of social networking sites or the positive effects of social networking sites. Do you see how you are stating the main idea of the essay together with your view, with your opinion? In your opinion, you agree that it's negative, or you agree or you disagree and you say that it's positive effects. You could go a little further in your introduction and actually say, give the reasons for your reasons for saying why you agree or disagree, why you're arguing for or why you're arguing against. Okay. Your body will consist of a number of paragraphs. I just put 3 here because, 3 is a number. And you have 500 words. So, it's not a lot of words, as you would have found in the assignment. You thought initially, oh, my word, 500 words. But when you then got stuck in, you found, oh, I've got too many words. How do I cut it down? So 3 main ideas, 3 reasons, 3 negative effects, 3 positive effects, if we stay with that essay question. And your last paragraph will consist of your conclusion. So your introduction contains the main statement that the main ideas in the body will attempt to support. So in paragraph 1, you're going to present argument 1, which is going to consist of a sentence, okay, or hello. I hear somebody. Please, will you mute your microphone because it is It's a disturbance. Thank you. Okay, thanks very much for that. And just so that you have, I see you have your camera on. You can switch your camera off, and then you'll find that you won't use as much data. Okay, so where were we? We're talking about your body paragraphs, your main ideas. Now, this word claim or assertion, it just means your first reason, the first statement for that's going to support your main idea, your main statement, or your main idea of the overall main idea of the essay. And there's your third body paragraph. And all of these paragraphs must talk back to the introduction. Okay? Then, of course, you're going to have a conclusion which will summarize your reasons that the thesis or the main idea or the main statement, remember your thesis statement is the topic of the or the main idea or the main statement of the essay together with your view, which if we're staying with that argumentative essay, it is either I agree or I disagree. That's your view, okay? And in your body paragraphs, you are going to present the evidence for that view. So if we were to look at this example, Shakespearean plays should not be taught in South African schools. That's a statement. It's saying, discuss your views on this statement. So part of your introduction could include Shakespearean plays, so you must decide, should be or should not be taught in South African schools because, okay? And this is where you're going to see, so this is, the topic here is Shakespearean plays being taught in schools, South African schools. You must say whether you agree with it or whether you don't agree with it and give your reasons. And this then would become your thesis statement. So if you don't know, and remember now you at the point in your planning of your essay, you're busy now putting together your different paragraphs. If you're unsure, it's okay until you've planned the rest of your essay. So you're going to create arguments that prove or disprove your thesis, the statement you made in your introduction. So you're going to make a statement or a claim or an assertion. And in this example, it says Shakespeare's plays deal with themes that are universally important and are still relevant today. That's the statement. Okay? Evidence to support that statement. For example, Romeo and Juliet deals with themes of forced arranged marriage, teenage, etc., etc., and then you're going to explain the evidence. These are just a few examples of some of the themes in Shakespeare's plays. Many of them are particularly relevant, for example, the impact of racism and the theme of arranged marriage. Second, and that paragraph talks back to the introduction. Next paragraph, paragraph 2 or argument 2, okay, consisting of a statement and evidence and an explanation of the statement. So essentially, your body paragraphs always need to talk back to what you said in your introduction. So you plan the body, then you finalize the introduction. Okay? So here, for example, in this example, where we're talking about Shakespearean plays being taught in South African schools, your introduction could say something like, there are both advantages and disadvantages to the teaching of Shakespearean plays in South African schools. Therefore, they should be taught, but only in moderation. If you look at the details in this second body paragraph here, it talks about the disadvantages of teaching Shakespearean plays. It talks about how pupils find it difficult to understand plays written in Elizabethan English. and how the majority of students who write that paper fail the Shakespeare question. So you can see how, if you're thinking about number of sentences, you just need a paragraph with 3 sentences for your body paragraphs. You know, if you split your body paragraph up into, okay, what is my statement here? What is my first reason? And then how am I going to support it? What can I say here to support that reason? How can I say it's about the first positive or the first negative effect of social networking sites, or the way in which social networking sites affect human relationships, is families don't talk to one another any longer. People don't have conversations any longer. For example, okay, I have found that as a family, we no longer sit down at the supper table any longer. Or you could say, I have experienced how everybody comes to the dinner table or the supper table with their cell phones and then don't talk to one another. They eat and sit on their phones. Okay, so do you see how we bring in an evidence of what we said in the first sentence, which is our statement sentence in our body paragraph? The conclusion is a summary of the arguments that have supported your overall. Now, this is just fancy words for supporting the main idea of your essay. Okay? So the main idea of this essay was both advantages. There are advantages and disadvantages, and Shakespearean plays must be taught, but in moderation. And again, we'll see here how the body paragraphs support the main idea, the overall idea of the essay. So you'll see that I've color-coded some of the sections of this example here, okay? And you'll see how the introduction and the conclusion are linked to each other. If you look at the color coding, so in the introduction I said it says both advantages and disadvantages. If you look at the conclusion, you'll see advantages and disadvantages referred to. Okay, and it's okay for you to use repetition in your essay. It's fine. In fact, it is expected of you to restate certain things in your essay. If you look at the words in red here, should be taught but in moderation. If you look at the bottom in the conclusion here, it says should be taught. We're using different words. It seems wise to continue to teaching Shakespearean texts, but only to teach them in moderation. We've used the same words as we've used in our introduction. If you look at the words in purple from our body paragraph, you'll see that these words are repeated in the conclusion. Okay, so in the body paragraph 1, it says Shakespeare's plays deal with themes that are universally important. Okay, and here, because this paragraph dealt with advantages, we're talking about the advantages are that the text deal with universal themes. And then, of course, if you've had body paragraphs that dealt with any other advantages, that's fine for you to do too. And then if you look at this one here, it talks about difficult to understand. So you'll see the repetition here of difficult, but it paraphrases, it uses the idea expressed a little bit differently. This paragraph spoke about the disadvantages. So in your conclusion, you're going to refer to, however, the disadvantages are that pupils find the language very difficult and they become demoralized. So there's maybe in here, which we're not really picking up here, is that they become demoralized because they fail. Okay, and any other disadvantages that you might have referred to in your body. Therefore, it seems wise to continue teaching Shakespearean texts, but only in moderation. And this last sentence in your conclusion talks right back to your introduction. So this is how your essay needs to flow and be connected and interconnected. When for this is an essay for academic purposes. So I want to now just get back to, so now I've shown you, we've looked at how to plan the essay. I've shown you the structure of your essay. Now you're getting to writing the essay. Keep to your plan. Often, in my experience as a teacher before in another life, and now as a tutor, even though I don't mark, but students would send, I do work in the writing center also. So when students send their essays for review to the writing center, I find that sometimes, the plan doesn't align with what they're writing. So keep to your plan, particularly in the exams. Don't go and invent, don't add extra information. Stick to what you scribbled, stick to what you came up with in that brainstorming session where you were generating ideas. But one of the elements of academic writing is that we must use academic vocabulary also to indicate our structure. Because in a 500-word essay, like you have to produce in the exam, headings are not required. It's only when you get to postgraduate level that you would start using headings in your academic essay, or if your instructions say you need headings. However, for this module, your essay must not have headings. We use vocabulary, we use words to indicate the structure. And these words are words that you use all the time. You are familiar with these words. Look at these words. It says firstly, words like firstly, words like secondly. Firstly, the positive effects of social networking sites on human relationships and activities. Okay? Or the first reason that social networking sites have a negative effect on human relationships and activities is. Then in your second body paragraph, you can say the second reason that social networking sites have a negative or whatever, or a positive effect on human relationships and activities is. And you see how I'm repeating the topic, the main idea, the overall idea of the essay, the effects of social networking sites on human relationships. If you want to add, you could say in addition, or moreover, or furthermore. You can use words like for example, okay? But if you're wanting to add an alternative view, so let's say that you disagreed with a statement, okay, and you said, no, I actually think that the effects of social networking sites it's positive. It has positive effects on human relationships and activities. Then you can introduce. So imagine you started off like that. Your view is it's positive. Now you want to introduce an alternative view. You can say, on the other hand, okay, to introduce that opposing view. In your last body paragraph, all right, you're going to start off by saying finally, or you can say lastly. Never use these two words in your conclusion. All right, because you're going to begin your conclusion with the words, in conclusion, it is evident that. So yeah, I'm going to give you some more vocabulary that you can use to indicate logical flow. In your introduction, and you might want to do a screenshot, or you can come back to the recording of the session. In your introduction, you can use words like it can be said that or argued that because the statement blah 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 is true or not true because the idea or the theory or the proposition that blah 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 is true can be proved or disproved because. Then in your body paragraphs, when you're making that first claim, you can use words like it can be said that, it is evident that, or you could say in the text if you're referring to a text. For in your evidence, to give an example, you can say, for example, this can be shown by, this is evident when. Okay? To explain all of what you've just said, therefore the evidence suggests, therefore it is obvious from this that, or you can say from this example, it can be shown or it can be deduced that. In your conclusion, you can use words such as illustrated, or you can say it is clear or obvious that, plus you add your thesis, the main thesis, which is your overall idea of the whole essay plus your view, okay? So it is obvious that blah, blah, blah is true, not the case, is the case, because, and you give your reasons. Remember, we're talking about the writing process. Part of the writing process includes editing and proofreading your essay. And this is one of the areas that is often neglected by students. It is so important to go back and read using your reading strategies that you started out with right at the very beginning of this whole process, where you looked at the essay question and you unpacked it using the appropriate strategies, is to do the same for your own writing, is to read your own work interactively and critically. So, have you included everything from your plan? If you haven't, do you have a good reason for that? Are your paragraphs, do they flow logically? Did you refer to the topic at least once per paragraph? Have you argued throughout if you're presenting an argumentative essay? Spelling and grammar, is your work neatly presented? Now, spelling and grammar is often an issue. Do the best you can, okay? Use the spell check. Use the tools of technology if you are typing your essay. Pay attention to spelling, language, grammar, because you are going to be marked for this. I'm very conscious of the time. We've got 6 minutes left. So I'm going to you're going to watch a video just to end off the discussion, and just to consolidate all of what we've spoken about. If you have any questions at this stage, please feel free to post them in the meeting chat, because I've come to the end of all of what I wanted to show you in the presentation and explain in the presentation. So I'm now going to show you a video just to consolidate what we've spoken about.
Welcome to this tutorial on structuring your essay, planning, identify your main message that will provide the body of your river. Welcome to this tutorial on structuring your essay from the University of Reading Study Advice team. The tutorial is designed for you to go through at your own pace, and you can pause it at any time. Structuring is one aspect of essay writing that often features in markers' comments. A structure that's easier to follow, has a stronger argument and clearer paragraphs will all get better marks. But how do you make sure that this happens? This tutorial will show you how to create an effective structure by looking at identifying your main message, using planning to help order your points, the role of introductions and conclusions, signposting, and clear paragraphing. So identifying your main message. A good flexible model for an essay structure is to think of your essay like a river. Your essay goes from your start point or introduction to your destination or conclusion, with your main message in answer to the question running throughout like the body of the river. Then you have your paragraphs, which act like the streams of the river. They all make different points, but these points feed in and contribute to the overall message and move you further along to where you're trying to get to, your conclusion. What you're trying to avoid is having lots of good individual points, but no clear direction for where they're headed. This confuses your reader and means they'll lack confidence in your structure. Planning can help identify your main message and find an order for the points that you want to make. Now, we probably all know somebody like perfectly planned Polly, who has the incredibly detailed and neat plans. And we equally know somebody like Jumpin' Justin at the other extreme, who just starts writing straight away. Being somewhere in between these extremes is usually a good idea. There's no right or wrong way to plan your essay, but the act of planning itself is useful for developing a strong structure, because it enables you to do some of the higher level thinking and identify what you want to write about before trying to express it in your individual sentences. Planning also helps you group similar ideas together so that you avoid repetition in your structure. It helps you cut out any irrelevant points that would distract from your main message. It enables you to find a logical order to put your points in, and importantly, it helps you identify that main message that runs throughout your essay like the river. Some people like to identify their main message first and then make their plan based on this, but other people find that their main message will only emerge once they've thought of their individual points. Whichever way works best for you is absolutely fine. So how might this look in practice? Here's an example essay question. You may have lots of different ideas from your own thoughts and wider reading. Note these all down, and then your planning process enables you to group similar ideas together and cut out any irrelevant points. As part of your planning, identify your main message that will provide the body of your river in answer to your question. Note down your introduction to help you start on the journey, and find a logical order to put your points in to help move your reader along the journey. People often get worried about the idea of a logical order for the points. There's no mystery to this, it just means a sensible order that takes your reader through step by step. Just think about what they need to know first, what they might need to know next, and then next. Students often find it difficult to know how to start and end their essays because they're not sure of the role that introductions and conclusions play. A good way of thinking of your introduction is like a roadmap. You wouldn't start on a journey without knowing where you are headed. An introduction often contains a what, a why, and a how. You explain what your essay question is about and show how you understand and interpret it. You briefly indicate why the question is important. This involves putting it in context and looking at what might be disputed, interesting, or why we should care about the issues in the question. Then you show how you're going to answer the question, and this means your reader knows what's coming. It involves some of the signposting that we'll look at in the next section of this tutorial. So if your introduction is like your roadmap, then your conclusion is like the snapshot that you take to remember your journey. It summarises your key points, but it's more than just a basic summary because the conclusion provides your final answer to your question that hopefully all your points have been contributing to. Now to move on to signposting. A key aspect of having a good structure is letting your reader know what this structure is, so they can easily follow it in your essay and give you credit for it. Signposting simply means letting your reader know what you're covering in the order that you cover it. So you might use phrases like these in your introduction. And you might use phrases like these to provide links between changes in different themes or sections in your essay. Your essay doesn't have to have a beautifully linked and flowing structure. It just needs a functional structure that the reader is aware of and that they can follow. A good structure is supported by clear paragraphs. These are the streams of the river, and each paragraph deals with a different point. You introduce the point first, provide evidence to support it, interpret the evidence to show how it supports the point, and then link that point back to your overall message. Each paragraph acts as a unit of sense, and when you move on to a different idea, you show this by starting a new paragraph. Now, from this example, you can see, without even having to read the text, that there is a lot of text in one big block. This probably indicates that there are too many ideas put together at once, and it would work better if this was divided into separate paragraphs. You can pause this tutorial to read the example in more detail to see why this is. So to recap, for an effective essay structure, identify your main message that forms the body of the river. Use planning to help order your points like the streams flowing into the river. Think of your introduction as your roadmap and your conclusion as the snapshot of the journey. Use signposting to make your structure clear to your reader, and have one main point per paragraph. And if you do this, you will have a solid essay structure to support your ideas.
Okay, so hopefully that that video just consolidated for you all of what we've covered today. I have posted in the chat the YouTube link for the video because you may want to go back to the video and just rewatch it. And I've also posted the feedback evaluation form in the chat as well. We've come to the end of the session. And I just want to bring to your attention that next Saturday will be the third session in this exam preparation series. However, I am thinking of running one more session in the week. But I'm waiting for the exam tutorial letter to be published so that I can see what I want to cover in that fourth session, because 1.5 hours is really short. And so I'm waiting patiently, like you are waiting, for that exam tutorial preparation letter to be published. And as soon as that becomes available, I will then start planning a fourth session. It will happen during the week, and it will be one evening in the week. So I'd like you to be on the lookout for an email invitation from the tutorial section of the Learning Centre in Parow in the Western Cape, inviting you to a tutorial session, and that will be the fourth session. And then we will have our standing Saturday morning session, which will be the 17th. And your exam starts on the Wednesday, sorry, the 21st, yes, which is the Wednesday. So in next week, I'm hoping to have that session during the week, and then Saturday will be our final exam preparation session. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. I hope that you have found the session to be beneficial. Please post in the chat for me just one thing that you're going to take away from the session today. What stood out for you today? I see some of you have already said thank you very much, and I appreciate your thanks. But I would like you just to think back on what we've covered today. What is the one thing that stood out for you today? And you can just add this to the chat, please. You're welcome. Yeah, and Msikele, we'll see how we can assist with getting the link to the students so that they can download it. But I think Dr. Shenge is going to publish it in the discussions on my UNISA. So I'm going to activate my camera again so that those of you who joined late can see that I'm a real person. And I'm just reading your feedback, analyzing the question, or unpack it. Yeah, yes. All right. Following the instructions is key. The format of the essay, says Nurjan. Anybody else want to add in the chat one thing that stood out for you before we go off and enjoy the weekend? I'm very pleased that you have found such great value in the session today. So the thesis statement used to confuse me. And you know, when you understand that the word thesis statement is just a fancy term for the main idea of the whole essay, okay? Plus your opinion, your view, your reasons. That's a thesis statement. And it usually is a sentence in your introduction. And if we have more time, then I might just, spend a little bit of time of just looking at the introduction a little bit in a bit more depth. Essay structuring. Fantastic. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I will leave you now to go and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I hope to see all of you, and maybe hopefully more of you next Saturday, as well as one session in the week. So all the very best. I say goodbye to you and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.